relatively quickly say your name and look at you. I don't know what you look like. I just know where you're sitting. And it also means that anytime we're up and about, I might not know who you are. So please don't be offended if I recognize you when you're seated in this part of the classroom and everywhere else you're just a face. I'm working on it, but it'll probably take me realistically at least a couple weeks to get to the point where I can look at you anywhere, hallway, outside, lunch, and actually know who you are and know your name. So I'm not trying to be rude. If I walk past you in the hallway and I don't look at you, it's because I'm not focusing on faces yet. I'm just trying to figure out names. And then the second thing that I just wanted to talk about really briefly, and you all did a great job of this yesterday, but I'm really going to try to have the classroom stay cleaner this year. Those of you who have had classes with me before, you know that while I like things neat and clean, they usually end up getting pretty bad. Some of that is my fault, and some of it is stuff that I think you all could help me with. So if you can, every day, sort of approach things in general the way that you did yesterday. More specifically, what I'll ask is if you take personal responsibility, anything that you do in this classroom, and make sure that whatever you work with, whatever you do, that part of the room looks at least as good as it did when you walked in here, that would be great. So if you make a mess somewhere, you can clean it up. If you use equipment, put it back where you got it. Sometimes the equipment is going to come from carts or lab benches or cabinets. If you took it out of the cabinet, you took it off the cart, put it back on the cart so that everything is back where it belongs. And I'm going to do my part too. I'm going to try to spend more time cleaning and organizing. We've got 3 different groups of students that are going to use this space. You all and the other Intro to Environmental Science class are one group. I have 2 physics classes and 2 AP biology classes. And what I want is for all of you to be able to use the space that we have instead of having to battle with the junk that I've left out on the counters. So if you can help me with that, I would really appreciate it. And I'll try to give you time and give you reminders and stuff like that so that we're working together. The next thing that I wanted to mention is for those of you who haven't had a class with me before, I just want to show you how I organize Canvas. It's pretty straightforward. Most of you are going to get it right away. Basically what I do is I have it organized by week and by day. So it's just chronological. So and I put the day of the week and the date and kind of what we did, so you can usually find stuff from back in the past. The current week will always be at the very top of the modules page or the home page. And so if you are keeping up with stuff, that's the only thing you're ever going to need to worry about. If you ever miss class, if you're running late, if you something happens and you need to look at something that happened before, all the other weeks will be organized chronologically below that. So by the middle of the semester, this top week is going to say week 9, and then right below that, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. So it's a little weird with the highest number being at the top and then everything else is sequential, but it actually seems to work for most people, and it definitely works for me. When you use Canvas, whether it's in or outside of class, I want to just caution you to avoid falling into the trap of just going to assignments and starting there. I know for a lot of you, that's the most important thing. I want to get the work done. I want to turn it in. If it's late or if I forgot to turn it in, whatever, if I was absent, you always want to go right there and get started. But I organize Canvas starting with the modules, which means that a lot of times all the explanation that you need for an assignment is actually in the module. And if you go to the module, any assignments that we do will be there as well. So it's really the first place and sometimes the only place you need to go. So if we look at today's module, it's got a little agenda laid out. It's got what we're gonna do, what I'm gonna have you do in a few minutes, and then it's got some stuff that I'm gonna talk about, and then it's got our little activity for the day, and there's a link to the assignment. So if you start here, you'll see everything you need to see for any given day. And if you come to me and you're like, what do we do on Thursday? I'll tell you, check out the module. If you come to me and you're like, how do I do this assignment? Usually I'll say, I'll start with, check out the module. There is an additional resource that you'll have available to you, and that is that I make recordings of the work that I do. So my presentations, my explanations, my demonstrations, all that stuff, I make videos and I post them so that you all can see them. It's mostly useful for people when they're absent. So a lot of you, or you might need to use the videos once or twice and that's it, but almost all of you will end up needing to access the videos at some point during the semester. Even if it's just like, oh, you have a doctor's appointment in this class, well, watch the video. And then the other thing that is really helpful with the videos is sometimes we do stuff that's kind of complicated. There may be a process that we have to do, like when we collect, and those of you who are in biology have done this before, but we're going to collect aquatic macroinvertebrates. And you might see that, and then a couple weeks later I'm like, okay, let's go collect AMIs, and you're like, I don't remember how to do it. Well, the video will have all that information, so you can use it if you were absent, and you can use it if you ended up forgetting something that we did to help you. My experience has been the videos are really useful to everyone, just usually occasionally. So you all of you may only watch like 1 or 2 or 3 videos, but collectively they end up getting used. Let's see, videos, seats, community. Okay, I think I hit all of the my initial talking points. So I'm gonna talk about some just general grading and expectation stuff. And while I'm doing that, I'm gonna ask you to write down some information on a note card. So I'm gonna, if you could just take one and pass it down the row. Basically, so yesterday, some of you probably remember that I told you what my goals are for you in the class. And what it boils down to, and I'm really confident that you can pull this off. What I want you to do is love the process of thinking about things and trying to figure it out. That's what science really is. That's like in a nutshell. Science is all about making observations, trying to figure out what it is that you're looking at. And it is so fun and it's so rewarding, and I want you all to have that experience. It's something that I do every single day, all day long, and I love it. So I would like you to have that experience. That's my goal for you. You all are here for different reasons, and I want to know why you're here. So on the note card, please put your name and your grade. No one but me and Ms. Jackson will see these, so you don't have to worry about you can. I want to know the real stuff, and I'm not going to take this and show other students or administrators or anything. And the first thing that I want to know is I want to know why you're here, and what you want to get out of this class. And here's the thing, I do understand some of you just walked in and they gave you a schedule and this class is on there, and that's totally fine. If the reason that you're here is because you got placed in the class, put that. And when it comes to what you want to get out of it, you may not really know. You may just be like, I don't know, I'm just here, and that's okay. But I would encourage you to think about things like, well, how important is it for you to earn credit? Like some people, I've had lots of students who don't really care if they pass or not. Some of them are like some of the most interesting students that I've ever worked with, but they don't pass their classes. They just don't jump through the hoops. And you may not care about that, but maybe you do. And so I would like to know, is it important to you to pass the class? Do you want an A? Are you really interested in environmental science or in science in general? I worked with the AP environmental science students last year, and man, so many of them were like, I'm going to go to college to study environmental science. I asked them, why are you in this class? They're like, this is my hope for a career. And so some of you might actually be interested in environmental science as a career. And I will just say this as an aside, so there's a lot of uncertainty in science right now because so much funding comes from the federal government, and that is changing. We're not we don't know exactly how things are going to play out, but there's less money available. But as it turns out, environmental science is an area where it's likely that funding will continue for environmental science because a lot of the funding for environmental science comes from the local level. People want to know what's going on in their communities, what's happening to this land, which areas have been polluted, how is this restoration effort coming along. So environmental science is, at least in my opinion, likely to be something that retains more funding than some other scientific areas. I really want you to be honest. So that means if you're not feeling really positive about what's going on, whether you're not interested in the class or you don't care if you get credit or whatever, I want you to tell me. And what I'm going to use that information for is to try to figure out a way that I can help you. So if you are not that into it, it's okay. I'd rather have you say I'm not that into it than say I'm going to be an environmental scientist when I grow up and you don't really care. And if that's you, and you put that, then I'm not going to badger you. I'm not going to give you a hard time, but I will try to help you get something. I would like you to get something meaningful from the class if it's possible. And then the last thing is just a catch-all. This is stuff that you would like me to know that I probably won't find out on my own. I'm not trying to dig into your personal lives, but the only thing I know about some of you is what I see on Canvas and Synergy. If your folks tell me something, if your counselor tells me something, I've got that. If there's something else that you want me to know, please tell me. My goal is to interact with you the way that you would like to have me interact with you. So the more you are open to sharing, the more I can communicate with you the way that you would like to be communicated with. And so if you could just kind of take a few minutes to complete that, I'm going to talk to you about our collected jobs. And this is it's a little weird because you obviously aren't getting paid for being here. Miss Jackson isn't getting paid for being here. I am. And that means not much, but I am. And so what that means is, in a formal sense, I'm not the only one here who has a job. But in a more practical sense, this is like a job. The expectations are the same. And so it turns out it's helpful to think about this the way that we would all think about an actual job where we're getting paid. Because that, I think, will maximize the benefit to you individually and to the other students in the class. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through our job descriptions and explain what your job is going to be, what my job is going to be, and how we can work together to make this the best, most meaningful experience for all of us. And I want to start with something. This is the simplest way for you to think about it. And this is not going to apply to everybody because some of you have being a student dialed in. It's easy for you to do school. You get your work done, you turn it in, you pass your classes, you're good at that. And if that's you, fantastic. What I'm about to tell you is not particularly relevant. But if you're someone who sometimes does not pass a class that you want to pass, or if you get a D when what you really want is a C or a B or an A, and you feel what am I just can't quite figure out how to do the school part of stuff, this is my kind of guarantee to you, and it is that you will get at least a C in this class if you do these three things that I promise every one of you can do. So this isn't about you have to study for the tests and you have to do well on this and you have to it's none of that. It's all stuff you can do. If you want to get a C in this class, you only have to do three things. One, you need to be here, and you need to be here on time. So show up on time, don't leave early. And that doesn't mean that if you're really sick, you should come in. It doesn't mean if you're on a family vacation that you're I'm not saying you can't do that stuff. What I'm saying is don't skip Don't skip, and don't like saunter in a half an hour late because you were just hanging out with your friends. Everybody, you all have control over that part of it. So if you can just be here, that's a third of the way to just getting a seat at least. The next piece, use the time that I give you in class to work on stuff. And we'll talk a little bit more about this today, and then like as it's necessary, I'll be more specific with more specific assignments. But basically what it boils down to is, if you in your brain every single day are thinking, I'm gonna do science stuff today. I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna do science. We got a science class, we're just gonna do science for 85% of the period with little breaks here and there. That's great. That'll do it. That'll get you a C, at least. And then turn your stuff in, give me evidence of what you've done. So using your class time is great, but I have to have something that I can use. If somebody comes to me and they're like, okay, Brigar, so I see that you had Cooper in your class and you gave him an A. And I'm like, yeah, Cooper did great work. And they're like, can I see it? And I don't have anything to give them. Then that doesn't play out real well. So you got to do good work, but you have to give me something. So you have to give me evidence. And we'll talk about what that's going to look like in just a second. Most of you are, I think, solidly on board with all three of these things. And most of you have a history of passing your classes, which is great. If that's not you, then I'm telling you right now, this is it. This is all you have to do to get a C. And it's completely in your control. So just know that. And then more generally, there's a set of things that I'm gonna ask everyone to do, and you can think of this as like, this is your job, right? This is your job responsibilities on a daily basis are to use class time for what we collectively are working on. So sometimes people wanna like, oh, I have a math assignment to do next period, or I have a lit paper. That's not your job. In this class period, your job is to work on science stuff. So make sure that you're doing the things that I'm asking you to do in class. Socializing. So I happen to believe, and actually there's a ton of evidence for this, that the key to actual happiness in life is really good, positive social connections. That is not just my opinion. There's a study, the longest study ever conducted by human beings, called the happiness study. Raise your hand if you've heard of that. You've heard of the happiness study? Maybe. So the happiness study, what they did is they started looking at people right after World War II, and they're still looking at these people. They looked at them from when they were little kids all the way through adulthood. Many of them have passed away. And basically what they were doing is they were asking, what makes these people happy or not happy? And as they sort of progressed through their lives, what ended up happening is it was like crystal clear. Absolutely everyone said the same thing. What makes them happy are the connections that they have with other people. For some people, they needed a lot of connections. Other people just need like a couple of really close friends. But nobody was like, oh, what makes me happy is like making a lot of money, or like looking good, or having a nice car. Like all of those things were sort of these transitory. Like they'd ask you, like somebody would get a new car and they'd be like, what makes you happy? And they'd be like, my new Mustang. But then 3 years later, they'd be like, what makes you happy? And they'd be like, well, I really like my spouse, or something like that. Like it always boils down to that. So when it comes to social stuff, I want to support that. I want you all to be with each other and hang out and like talk. But we have to do science too. So what I'm going to emphasize, and we'll see how you do with this. Some of you can do it, no problem. Others of you are going to need some practice. Some of you may need like real serious coaching. What it boils down to is, if you can be really productive, then there are going to be lots of opportunities for you to socialize as well. So if you're setting up equipment, right? Like if I say, okay, we got to get this temperature sensor set up, this apparatus set up in the back of the room, like you need to only talk about the temperature sensor and your Chromebook. Like go back, get the temperature sensor set up, and talk about the football game, or your family, or whatever. That's okay. Today, we're gonna go for a little walk, and once we get where we're going, we're gonna do some work. But in between here and where we're going, you absolutely can just like chat. That's what I'm gonna do. It's fun, it's nice, it's a nice little break. And I want you to enjoy those moments. But you have to be able to be productive. So if you're setting up a temperature sensor, you have to actually be plugging the equipment in and like getting it set up while you're talking. You can't just stand there with a cord in one hand and a sensor in the other talking to somebody, because that's not actually doing the sensor part of the activity. So we'll see. If you all have that dialed in, great. Typically there are at least a few students who struggle with kind of staying focused and on task when there are potential social distractions. The next part of your job is to have integrity. So largely what that means is that you are being honest with me and you're being honest with other people in the classroom. That you're producing the things that I'm asking you to produce. If you give me something, it reflects what you know and what you can do. So, for example, there's two ways to do a science lab, right? One way is you do the lab and you think about the data and you write stuff down and you answer the questions and you turn it in. The other is you work in a group, by which I mean you sit around and chat, and then at the end of the lab, you write down what was on somebody else's paper and turn it in. I might not be able to tell the difference. It's your job to make sure that you're doing the first thing and not the second thing. I want you to be engaged. And this is something, so what you're gonna see from me is what I expect to see from you. And I take this, I don't take myself very seriously. Some of you know that already. Like, I like to joke around. I actually take this job really seriously. I take you and your education really seriously. And so I, right now, am exhausted, just like some of you. But I am gonna keep the on switch in the on position until 3:10. And the reason is because you deserve that, all of you. You deserve my energy and my time and my commitment. And I'm gonna ask you to do the same thing. I'm gonna ask you to lock in and try to have a really positive attitude, try to learn, try to think about what's going on. Because I think if you do, you'll actually have fun. Because that's usually how these things work. And some of you may have had this experience before. I know some of you have been miserable for. I've seen it. Like some of you, like that I've worked with in the past, or like some of you that were on like the JV2 basketball team last year. Like I knew that some of you were not happy sometimes, but you together collectively made your way through that, and it was pretty cool. Like I was really impressed watching those basketball people play, and that's the kind of stuff we can do that in here as well. I'm going to ask you to collaborate. For most of you, that's not going to be a problem. Some of you are like me. You are introverted. You have some like social anxiety. And for us, it's not easy to collaborate and connect with other people all the time. But it's going to be necessary in here for three reasons, really. The first is, a lot of times we're just not going to have enough equipment for people to work on their own. Okay? And so that's just the way it's going to be. The second reason is that much of the work that we do is not going to be possible to do individually and still learn the things that you need to learn. Learning requires some sort of interaction. So if you're interacting with other students in the class, you're going to learn more. And the third thing is because it's a necessary skill. If I had if I could get away with it, I would be like a recluse. I would just be like completely alone all the time. I'd be perfectly happy doing that, but I can't. So my ability to interact with other people socially has benefited me, and I want you all to have that skill as well. And then your last big responsibility is just like do what I ask. And I am not going to be like, I'm not a drill sergeant. I'm not going to be like, sit down and be quiet. And that's not how I roll. But if I ask you to do something, do it. And if I ask you to do something and you're like, if I say like, oh hey, can you move over there? And you say, yeah, just a second. And then you're like finished doing something. And I'm totally fine with that. What I don't want is for me to say, for example, oh, hey, can you put your math away? Let's work on science instead. And then 2 minutes later, I come back and you're still working on your math. and just like, don't do what I ask. So make sure that you understand that I'm gonna tell you what to do, and it's not just, it's gonna be best for you, but it's also what we need to do collectively for everyone. If we're all working on the science stuff together, it's gonna play out really well for everyone. And then I have some responsibilities too, and like I said, I take this stuff really seriously. And the first is, I want this to be a place where everybody feels good about being. And I can't change the way that you feel, but I'm the one who determines what the learning environment looks like. So I want things to be positive, I want you all to be safe, I don't want you to be like giving each other a hard time. I want everybody to come in here and at the very least feel like, well, at least Bregar's gonna be nice, right? Like that is what I would like, is if you're having a crappy day, I would like this to be a place where you can come in and just be like, okay, well, at least, like, I don't wanna do science, I don't wanna see anybody, like, everything's bad, but at least in this place I know that I'm not gonna get harassed. So let's make sure that that's what the environment looks like. I am here to make it possible for everybody to learn. So everything I'm doing is an attempt to help at least some one of you learn something. And that I do all the like preparation and the grading, and that's all to facilitate learning. But you know, other things too, like I may ask you to, you know, do something in a certain way, because that way you'll learn best or somebody else will learn best. So that's part of my job. I am here to make sure you understand what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it and how to do it, whether that's an assignment or a test. What I want is for you all to learn stuff and then show me what you've learned. I don't want there to be barriers to your learning, and I don't want there to be barriers to you showing me what you've learned. So if you can't figure something out, I want you to ask me about it. I want to explain it to you so that you can learn the stuff that I'm asking you to learn, and then you can show me what you've learned in a way that makes sense to me. And then the last thing that I have on my list of jobs for me has to do with points and grades. And some of you, it's not that big of a deal. You're not a grade motivated person, and that is fine. But those of you who are like, you think a lot about grades, you want to get an A, or you want to get at least a B or whatever, I'm going to tell you how to do that. And then if you do what I say, you'll have your best shot. I can't guarantee it, right? Like I can't say, I can't say you're gonna get an A. What I can say is, if you want an A, here's your best bet. This is how you go about doing it. But what I'm not gonna do is make it easier for you to accrue points to raise your grade. So if you're in the habit of being like, oh shoot, I have a 77% and I want a B, that's on you. You're gonna have to figure out what you need to do differently to get a B. It's not gonna be the kind of thing where you come to me and you're like, how can I get 2 more points on this test? Or I have a 77% and I'd like a B, what do I need to do? I will, for everything that we do, explain how it is that you should do it. And your job is to do it that way if you want the most amount of points. I don't like points and grades as a way of evaluating people. I don't think it does you a service, but I really understand how important it is for some of you, and I certainly don't want to sabotage anything. So I'm going to try to make it really clear what you need to do to get the best grade possible, and then at that point, then it's in your lap, right? And that is that's what I have got for expectations and stuff. We have more stuff that we are going to need to talk about. I'm not going to talk about it today. Do a little bit of talking next Tuesday, a little bit of talking on Thursday, and probably by then we'll have everything wrapped up, or at least we'll be pretty close. This presentation will be on Canvas. There will be a syllabus on Canvas after we've gone through all of this stuff that will recap all of this, and it has some other information that some people want to know. And once we've gone through everything, I'm going to ask you to sign the syllabus, have somebody at home, parent or guardian sign it, and bring it back to me saying that you understand what the expectations are. And all of this stuff will end up being posted to the videos as well. So you you'd be able to review it if you need to. One of the things that I say a lot is I don't like unpleasant surprises. I don't like them for me, and I don't want them for you. So going over these expectations is my way of helping you avoid an unpleasant surprise. I would hate for you to feel like, oh, how's I supposed to know that, ... So I'm going to try to make the expectations really clear. Okay, the last nuts and bolts thing that I have for you, for the most part, I think people did really well, and I have a few of the papers that you guys did yesterday that I'm going to hand back to you because when you do work in this class, it's going to be really important that you always turn it in on Canvas. That means, here, Allison. Your Allison. This is you. Let's see. Jay, is that you? So what that means is that when you have work that you do with pencil and paper, you're going to turn it in on Canvas with a picture with your Chromebook. But then, of course, I won't be able to actually see it because you're going to be taking a picture with your Chromebook. So then I still want it on paper. I want both. And I know that that's annoying, but there's actually a purpose to it. I want it on Canvas because when it's on Canvas, then I can see that you've turned it in. You can see, your parents and guardians can see that you've turned it in, and we can see if things are coming in on time or late. I want it on paper so that I can actually read it and look at what you did and give you feedback if that's needed. So if I give you your paper back, you can just right now get your Chromebook, take a quick picture, and then I still want the work when you're done because I haven't really looked at it yet. If you didn't turn it in on Canvas. All right, so I think I've hit all my logistical things. Did I hit all my logistical things? Somebody needs to keep track of me. You're nominated. You're it. Okay. So okay. So the next thing that we're going to do, next thing on our Canvas agenda here, is to take a little tour of an area of campus called the Arboretum. And I'm going to go through the assignment real quick so everybody knows what you're going to do. And then we'll take a little break and we'll go outside and we'll do the work. And this should be, I think, it's not comfortable outside. I know that. But it's actually not terrible in the Arboretum because it's really shaded. And it's kind of fun to just wander around. And so I think even though it's hot, I think it'll be a relaxing way to spend the last half of our class. So here's the assignment. Basically, we built a little garden here on campus. We started it, I don't remember when we started. This is a piece of paper that I collected some data on in June of 2011. So that was 14 years ago, and this wasn't the first thing that we did there. So I think it's been around for close to 20 years now. And it's a special kind of a garden because it's a tree garden, which is called an arboretum. And the way that this happened was there's this guy, so his name's Dave Eckert, and basically he moved to Corvallis in like 2005, and he has 7 times as much energy as all of us put together. And he moved to town and he was like, okay, well, let's do projects. And he started reaching out. He reached out to schools. He reached out to the city of Corvallis and Benton County. And he organizes people and projects and equipment and supplies and just does stuff all over the place. How many of you went to Shelburne? Raise your hand. Did you ever visit the Arboretum there with Miss Davis or with anybody else? Dave Eckert did that too. You have a little Arboretum too over on the, like, I don't know, by the parking lot. Anyway, what he did is he came to me and he was like, let's build this tree garden, this arboretum, and I said okay. And so he got everything organized, bought a bunch of trees, people gave him money, he bought a bunch of trees and other plants, and we planted them. And this is an aerial photo, and this actually was probably not long after we planted it. It has, so you won't be able to see this, but it has this sort of general shape. I have another picture that I'll show you in just a second. It's like irregularly shaped. But you can see on this image, like these little blobs, those are the trees we planted and the bushes. We went out there with shovels and buckets for water, and we prepared the soil. We put plastic down first, and then we put mulch down, and then we dug holes and we planted all this stuff. It took a couple years to get it set up. And ever since then, so this was in 2011, ever since then, we've been tracking the information in the Arboretum. We've been looking to see how the plants are doing, whether they're still alive, how much they've grown. I mean, we used to. We don't do that anymore, and you'll see why momentarily. This document has heights written on it. So this document has, right here it says, Willamette Pine 1, 6 foot 6 inches. I'm about 5'8", so 6 foot 6 would be like this. So somewhere out there was a Willamette oak, a Willamette pine that in 2011 was about this tall. Okay, and what we're going to do today is you're going to do your own version of this map. You can take a look at mine if you want, and I'm going to actually post a picture of it on Canvas. I haven't yet, but I will. You can take a look at mine. This is what I'm looking for. It's got an outline of the Arboretum. It's got some other stuff like locating information. So, for example, those of you who are familiar with our campus, you might know where the baseball practice, the indoor baseball, practice facility is. It's right by the Arboretum, or the gross old greenhouse that's falling apart, or the gym, or the student parking lot. So you can put that stuff on there. And then I want you to show me approximately on your map all the plants and trees that are growing out in the Arboretum. So you can see, there's probably 30 that I have on mine. You don't need to try to measure or estimate heights, but I do want you to try to figure out what the names of the plants are. And you can do that for most of them fairly easily because there's markers. There's these pieces of wood in the ground, and they have a little plaque on them, and it'll say the name. And so you'll walk up, and if you see a plant and you're like, I don't see a marker for this one, then the marker is probably somewhere else. There were only, I think there were only maybe 2 or 3 kinds of plants out there where the markers, I couldn't find them. Some of them have fallen down, but some of them just got overgrown, but most of them are still there. And so you'll identify as many of the plants as you can by using the markers and identify where they are. And then the other thing that I want to do is have you just look and see places where there are other kinds of plants that we didn't plant, weeds basically. And the reason for that is because one of the things that we did when we set up the Arboretum is we used different weed prevention treatment mechanisms. Some places we used a bunch of mulch, some places we used newspaper, some places we dug into the soil and turned it all over, and some places we didn't. We're trying to figure out which of those worked best. And so we want to know where the weeds and other plants are growing. This is your goal at the end of class, is to have something that looks like, at least vaguely like this. A little map showing a bunch of plants with their names, and then some notes on there about where there are weeds and stuff. The only other thing I want to show you here, which I think is really kind of cool, is this is the aerial photo that I just showed you. You can kind of see the basic outline of the Arboretum. This was probably 15 years ago. This is what it looks like now on Google Maps. So the reason we're not looking at heights anymore is most of these plants are way too tall. This little pine tree right here that was 6'6" in 2011 is 20 feet tall now, and nobody's going to be able to measure to the top of that. It's crazy when you get out here. I want you to imagine what it would be like if you were standing here and somebody else was standing here in 2011. This isn't that far. You would have been able to see them. Now, it's a forest. And one of the nice things for us on a hot day like this is because it's a forest, it's shady, it's going to be pretty comfortable. So one of the reasons that we're doing this work is to track changes in the Arboretum over time. You don't notice it on a day-by-day basis, but look at the difference, and that's 15 years. You know, that's basically like around the amount of time that you've been alive. This piece of land has changed that much. Okay, so don't get up yet. The things that you're going to need for this are, number one, a partner. You can work with one single partner, but don't work in groups of 3. You're going to need a pencil or a pen. You're going to need a piece of paper that you can turn in at the end of class. And if you want a clipboard or something else to use as a writing surface, those are the things you're going to need. And we're going to leave this room in about 5 minutes. So at 2:29, we are all of us together. We're going to walk out the door. In that 5 minutes, you're welcome to take a quiet break. You can get a drink, use the bathroom, anything else you need. So let's meet back here at 2:29, ready to go.